and welcome to another Saints Live. I'm Steve Forbes.
And I'm Kenzie Benali.
And we're back as Southampton travel up to Molineux today to take on Wolves in the Premier League, and they'll be hoping to keep this unbeaten run going, Kent.
Oh yes, indeed. And with us to build up to kick off is former Saints captain Dean Hammond and Premier League reporter Paul Belveston. Great to have you both with us twice in a week. How are you doing? I knew that was going to happen.
I'll jump in. I'm waiting for Paul. Paul's waiting for me.
You're ever so polite.
Well. Very well, Kenzie. Thank you very much. Still buzzing from the result midweek and looking forward to the game today.
Oh, good stuff. Well, it's great to have you back with us. Belvers, very polite there indeed. How are you doing?
Got to let the captain speak first. If you want any sort of future in this game, you've got to know your place. No, all good at this end. Yeah, looking forward to this one. If it matches anything like the performance and result of the midweek against Brentford, be a very, very happy man.
Oh, most definitely. Well, they'll certainly be going into the game with a lot of confidence, won't they? Well, we will be bringing you the team news in less than 15 minutes time now. So let's take a look at the situation then. The good news is that Kyle Walker-Peters does return after his suspension. We are still without Tino Livramento and Will Smallbone, though, who are both injured. And Moi Elianusi and Theo Walcott both out with COVID.
Yeah, so with all that information, Dean, we'll come to you first. Are you expecting any changes from Tuesday's 4-1 win over Brentford?
Yeah, possibly, Steve. I don't think there'll be any major changes. I actually think Southampton may actually go with the same shape again with three at the back. I think it worked particularly well and potentially could work against Wolves for this individual game as well. Personnel-wise, I think there could be a couple of changes. Maybe Kyle Walker-Peters is a natural choice maybe to come in at that right fullback or right wing back. I think that could work, and maybe Shay Adams as well. I think Brazier and Shay Adams playing up front together could really form a really powerful, strong partnership together that will be a real threat. And I'd love to see them play together. So I think that's an option as well. But the squad looks healthy. I know they played Tuesday night, so there's been less of a recovery. But I still think that's enough time for the players to go again. And I think there'll be some real belief and confidence within the group to continue that fine result they got against Brentford. So I can't see too many changes, maybe a couple individual changes, but I'd be quite keen to see Southampton go with the same shape again. I think it worked pretty well defensively. I like the three in the centre of midfield. I think that worked quite well as well. And I'd like to see them go that way again.
Well, yeah, Belvers, on that, we did see a slightly different formation, as Dean mentioned. Are you expecting any changes to the side that took on Brentford midweek?
I think there's a very strong argument for saying play the same team. They performed so very well, didn't they? But managers don't tend to do that these days, do they? They do sort of pick very specific starting 11s and formations for the opponent they're up against. And of course, three at the back was what they picked against Spurs, matching them up again. Brentford, matching them up again. So, there was the debate, would they be playing three at the back against Brentford simply because they had no right backs, or would it be a case of looking to do what Brentford did? I think one of the strongest arguments for sticking with the formation is the performance of Ibra Diallo on Tuesday night. Ralph Hasenhüttl said himself that the player sent him a message with that performance, and he has been very unlucky not to get more opportunities. I think he's never really let Southampton down, and yet trying to break into that partnership of Romeo and James Ward-Prowse has been so difficult. So I think that again perhaps pushes the manager towards sticking with 3-5-2 or however you want to describe it. But yeah, you'd think Kyle Walker-Peters would come in. Shay Adams scored so quickly after coming on, although Ralph Hasenhüttl does really like Nathan Redmond playing up front there, doesn't he? So the good thing is there are options. He's going to keep the opposition guessing, certainly, because there are a few different players who could come in. But I think, like Dean said, it's going to be pretty similar to what we saw in midweek.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Dean, let's talk about our captain for a sec with our former captain. We did speak before the last game about James Ward-Prowse and how he may struggle to impact a match from right back. Now, it turned out that he played most of the game in central midfield, all over the place at times, actually, although he did go to right back when Tello went off. So how impressed have you been with his performances, not only against Swansea, where he did play right back in the FA Cup, but also against Brentford?
Well, I think his performances of the last probably 4 or 5 weeks have been exceptional. His assist for Shane Long's goal is fantastic from that right back position. The pass on the move is exceptional. His delivery from set pieces for Bednarek's goal. But James is improving all the time, and he looks even more composed on the ball. I think he's getting better and better. I think he's understanding his role as a player more, and as a captain. I think that's improving him as a player. And he can play at right back. You know, when he went to right back against Brentford, very, very comfortable, still had an effect on the game. I love him in the centre midfield. I think he's a complete midfield player. Like you can see from the highlights, he can win the ball back, he can tackle, he can score goals, he can create things. And like we're just seeing now, that tackle at the end was fantastic. And that is an example of what a captain is. The game is won. It's 4-1 at the time. That will leave it to 4-2. But the energy and the desire to get back and prevent that goal is fantastic. And you want that from your captain. He leads by example in his performances. He looks like he's got full respect from the group as well. So he can play at right back. He's very, very flexible. But I still think he's improving as a player. I really do. I think he looks fit and healthy. I think he's getting stronger. And he's enjoying his football as well, which is brilliant. And he's a winner. You know, you can see he wants to win, and he's driving this group on. So brilliant player, but having a real effect on his performances. 3 goals recently, spectacular goals as well. 2 assists in his last 2 games. Yeah, top player.
Well, someone else who has certainly been amongst the goals is Armando Brazier, Paul. We need to talk about him, don't we? Because he's the man on everyone's lips at the moment. He really is in fine form. How would you assess his current situation?
Very, very good. He's got the world at his feet. He's got an awful lot of admirers, hasn't he? He's been sort of threatening to have a good breakthrough. He scored 10 goals on loan at Vitesse last season, 3 in 3, I think, in pre-season for Chelsea, and then signed a new long-term contract with them. And after a slightly slow start, he's been fantastic for Southampton. I would hate to have to try to defend against him. He causes all sorts of problems. I mean, look, that's not saying a great deal. I wouldn't want to defend against you and Steve, Kenzie, but he scored a couple in the League Cup, didn't he, against Newport, as we're seeing, and then he was called into the manager's office, wasn't he, for some stern words, because Ralph Hasenhüttl wasn't convinced that he was showing all the commitment that he could, but it was only one chat and it really had an effect. And after the first sort of 6 or 7 games of the season, he got an opportunity and has never looked back. He scores a wide variety of goals. Like I say, he causes defenders horrendous problems. They, he's not the finished article. He's a bit raw, but he's powerful. He can, I think the way he chooses when to shoot is quite impressive, because he's not someone who's trying to pepper the goal all the time and just taking shots from crazy angles. And whenever he's got the ball at his feet, his shot conversion rate is right up there in the 20 to 25%. So 1 in every 4 shots is going in. And like I say, some of the goals have been fantastic. He's doing it on international duty with Albania as well. I know there are Chelsea fans who are very keen to have him back. There was even talk from some a couple of months ago where, Lukaku, Werner, then they weren't really showing any signs of having a good season there. Lukaku got injured, didn't he? Werner's really never convinced up there, and they were wishing that they had Brazier still on their books. They thought that they should have him as an option, and I think there's a feeling of that within the club as well, that he is someone that they could use in the future, which means the chances of convincing the bosses at Stamford Bridge to let Southampton have him permanently, I think it would be an incredible deal if they managed to get that done. I think they tried to do that over the summer, like Tino Livramento, get him down here, perhaps even with a buyback clause in the contract. But Chelsea said, no, not with Brazier. We want to keep him. But maybe he could come back next season on loan as well, and he could, we could have him actually down at St Mary's for a little while, because he is a huge favourite with the fans, and he's doing it on the pitch. Basically, he is always having an impact. He's a very exciting player to watch.
Yeah, I'm sure the fans would love him back in any capacity. Well, while we're on the subject of Armando Brazier, let's hear from the man himself. This is what he had to say following that 4-1 win over Brentford.
The goals are flowing for you. How much are you enjoying your football here?
Yeah, I'm loving my football so far here at St Mary's. It's been going really well here at Southampton. So I'm just buzzing. The boys are helping me out every day. The gaffer, the players, everyone. So it's just a really amazing moment, for me and my family. And I'm just really thankful that I've got this opportunity, and I'm trying to keep going forward. So. Do you
have a target in mind between now and the end of the season? How many goals you'd like to get to?
I don't really think too much about that. Obviously it's good to set myself targets, but I'm just trying to focus on myself and the team, and trying to do as good as possible. So I'm not going to get too carried away with that. But yeah, I'm just going to just keep going. So.
In terms of the team up to 11th now, the top half is in sight. What's the target between now and the end of the season? Yeah,
we're trying to keep pushing, try and get as high at the table as possible. And like I said, it was a great way to start the new year, with a Premier League win. So yeah, we're just going to keep pushing forward, and hopefully we can get up the table a few more positions, and yeah, that'll be amazing. So.
Armando Brazier chatting there after that Brentford game. Now, Dean, he scored his 7th goal of the season in that match. What's been impressing you with his performances?
I think the obvious thing to say is the goal, Steve. It's the hardest skill in football to do, but his maturity as well. For such a young man, he's very, very calm. You can see from his finishing, it's just really composed. It looks really natural. He looks like a natural finisher. Paul touched on it. His conversion rate is exceptional. He doesn't get that many chances, but he gets clear-cut chances. He gets 2 or 3 times in a game, he's through on the goalkeeper. Now that's due to his movement, that's due to his timing, his pace. He's got exceptional pace as well. And I like what he is. He's brave, but he's selfish as well. When he gets in these situations, he's not looking to pass the ball. He's looking to score. He's looking to commit and take that responsibility. And I think that's fantastic. At times that can frustrate, but Paul mentioned as well, he's very clinical in what he does. He picks where he wants to score. With that goal against Crystal Palace, you see it before. He's having to look up. He's looking where he's going to strike it, hits it with real power. So he's got conviction in his finishing, and he works really hard for the team. So he's a team player as well. But I think he's been really, really impressive, and he scores different types of goals, which is just as impressive. But the best performance for me, I think, was away at West Ham. I think he was fantastic in that game. Didn't score, but the way he won the penalty and the way he allows Southampton to change formation. Against West Ham, he played up there on his own, really. He held the ball up, so he's really, really reliable, which means you can trust the ball into him. He was making runs in behind. He caused West Ham defence problems all day. And I think, personally, that was probably his best performance of the season. But I think he's grown all the time, and it's been a great bit of business for Southampton to get him on loan. And long may that continue. Whether they can turn that into a permanent deal, I think that would be brilliant for the football club. But he's been fantastic. And I would love to see him and Shea get a consistent run together, injury-free, because I think both of them can get into double figures this season with goals, and that will be really important for Southampton.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, Paul, one thing we do want to talk about is the goalkeeping situation. It's something we do come back to often here on Saints Live. Obviously, we know Willy Caballero has signed until the end of the season, but of course it was Fraser Forster getting himself plaudits on Tuesday night. Now, we are told that Alex McCarthy is close to full fitness. With that in mind then, how would you kind of assess the competition for places between the sticks?
It's a peculiar one, isn't it? Because they are 3 excellent, very experienced goalkeepers who've performed so very well for the club. In, Caballero's case, a short time, but Alex McCarthy here, he's got the number 1 on his back, and he does seem to be the first choice when they're all fit. He started this season after there was a bit of flip-flopping last season, but Caballero, signing him on a full-time contract, that makes sense, doesn't it? With the threat of COVID always lurking around the corner, you don't want to be in a situation where the club were just a couple of weeks ago when they're struggling with both first-choice goalkeepers out. Fraser Forster's come in again. He's just looked, since that loan deal at Celtic, whenever he's come in, he's been fantastic. And Saints have an excellent record with him in goal. He pulled off a couple of cracking saves against Brentford. It's odd, though, that you've got these 3 excellent, experienced goalkeepers. They're all out of contract in the summer. So it could well be that The competition for places is spurring them on. The threat of not having a contract next season is also spurring them on.
Belvers, my apologies. I'm going to jump in there. So sorry to cut you off when you were so polite at the top of the show. But we actually do have the team news now, so we're going to jump to that. Let's take a look at how the Saints do line up to take on Wolves at Molineux this afternoon. It is indeed an unchanged side to the team that faced Brentford in the week. So it is Fraser Forster in goal. The three at the back, Jan Bednarek, Lianco and Mohamed Salisu. Again, looks like Nathan Tella could well occupy that right wing back position. Roman Perraud as left wing back. In the midfield, it is our captain James Ward-Prowse, Oriol Romeo and Ibrahima Diallo. And then leading the line for Southampton is Nathan Redmond and the on fire Armando Brazier. The Southampton substitutes then is Willie Caballero, Carl Walker-Peters, Jack Stevens, Jan Valery, Thierry Small, Stuart Armstrong, Adam Armstrong, Shay Adams and Shane Long. Belvers, given that I cut you off there, let's come to you for your thoughts. First of all, you said you could well expect an unchanged side today. That's exactly what we've got. They certainly did the job against Brentford, but Wolves are tough opposition. Can they do it again today?
Yeah, I said there was an argument, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was a same start. I am a bit surprised I'm certainly surprised that Carl Walker-Peters hasn't come back in. I do like Nathan Tella a lot, but at wing back, I think I was raving about Kyle Walker-Peters' impact over the past 2 years on Tuesday, and I was surprised when he didn't start the season. I'm surprised that he hasn't come straight back in here now, and also I do think, like Dean, Brazier and Adams are the future, the partnership up front that could bring an avalanche of goals. But again, the manager's gone with Nathan Redmond. If they were going to stay with 3-5-2, they were the two sort of changes I was kind of thinking of. I am also surprised that in a way that he hasn't gone back to 4-2-2-2 to get Stuart Armstrong back in the team, but he remains on the bench. I mean, look, the bench is as strong as I've seen it for a very long time. So again, we mentioned options earlier. The manager certainly has options to change it through the game and for the next game and onwards throughout the season. So yeah, certainly no complaints or criticisms. It's a very healthy situation to be in.
It really is indeed. And Dean, obviously it was a fantastic dominant display on Tuesday. Of course, we're hoping for more of the same today. What do you make of this unchanged side?
Unsurprised, really. I'm the only surprise is that Carl Walker-Peters has not come back in, because he's a natural fullback, a natural wing back, and Nathan Tella isn't. Nathan Tella did a fine job midweek against Brentford, but it's not his it's not his natural position. But it's a strong team. They did perform well. They've won 4-1, very dominant in the game. And like I said, they will be carrying that belief and that confidence from that performance. And tactically, I'm sure the manager has looked at it and believes that shape, that personnel can cause Wolves some problems today. So a very attacking team with Nathan Tella there. His natural instinct is to attack, and you'd want him to do that. So yeah, I like the balance of the team. Like I say, the three in midfield, I think, gives you real options. James Ward-Prowse can get forward even more, so it gives them a little bit of freedom. Oriol Romeo in the midfield can try and control the game, and Diallo is improving all the time with his performance and his goal during the week. So a strong team, and like Belva said, it's a very strong bench. So the players coming off the bench can make an impact, which they did in the week as well. So interesting game today.
Well, as it is an unchanged team, that means Lianco keeps his place as one of the three centre-backs. Dean, what have you made of his performances of late, and what can he do to get an extended run in the team?
Well, I think Ralph has managed him well, similar to when Salisu came in. He's kind of dipped him in and out, give him a bit of experience to introduce him into the Premier League. I think his performance against Brighton was brilliant. I think he performed very, very well that day. He's nice and aggressive. As you can see from the highlights, likes to defend, likes to get close to his opponent. And I like him. And I think actually the shape, playing three centre-halves, is beneficial for him. With having Salisu one side, Bednar at the other side, it allows him to go and attack the ball. It allows him to be aggressive and be the defender he wants to be. So I think he's done fine. I think there's more to come from him, but he looks like a shrewd signing. He looks like the fans love him as well. He's entertaining. He takes a bit of a risk sometimes, as you can see there. Good defending, but then tries to chip the ball over the opponent's head, but then again reacts really, really well. So yeah, I think he's a good signing that likes to defend, which you need in your team. And that defending at the end is very, very good. He spots the danger. He actually defends with his left foot, which is the correct foot. Sometimes when you try to defend with your natural foot, which would be his right foot there, that's when own goals can happen and mistakes can happen. So he looks like he's a good defender. And, like I say, good signing by the football club.
Well, for the first time today, let's hear what the fans have to say as we build up to kick-off. Lots of comments coming in to us. Thanks ever so much for sending those through. Andrew Shepley, good afternoon. He's going for a 3-1 win to Southampton today. Andrew Kirby also hoping for a win. He says he's going for 2-1. Redmond to bag both. Cameron, hello, watching from sunny Cyprus. Oh, glorious. He says he's feeling confident and going for a 1-2 win to the Saints. James Ward-Prowse free kick and Brazier steamrolling their defence and a tidy finish. Stephen says another tough game today, but I see a win after the 90 minutes. And Carly on Facebook said it is going to be a tough game, but if we play like we have in the last few games, we can get a result.
Yeah, lots of positivity there amongst the fans. Now, following the Brentford game, we've played every team in the league once, twice against West Ham if we're being picky. Now, Paul, if I had to get you to give a half-time report, as it were, to sum up Southampton's season so far, what would you say?
The first quarter was a worry, wasn't it? Was it 4 points from the first 7 games, something like that? Started sort of fearing the worst a little bit, but particularly in attack, it seemed a little bit of a struggle. There were some positives there. The second quarter, if you like, has been fantastic. Things are really starting to gel. There's variety in attack, in formations. There, the ways to keep the opposition guessing. All fans love seeing new signings come into the club. They get the adrenaline pumping in the stands and things. When new signings start performing as well as Tino Livramento and Armando Brazier have done, then that is really very, very exciting, especially when they're young players as well coming through. And they, that particularly Livramento, he got us all talking from pretty much his first half hour on the pitch, didn't he? They did seem to be a little bit reliant on Tino for going forward early on. That's now not a problem quite so. Obviously, it's a shame Livramento's not in the team, but there is sort of more variety, more options going forward. The goals have started to come. The defence is more solid than it has been for a long time. I think, it tends to be Dean who gets far too carried away too quickly, doesn't it? But I'm going to do that today because 20 games of the season, 24 points is where Southampton stand right now. The best ever Premier League campaign for this club back in 15-16 under Ronald Koeman. After 20 games, Southampton had 24 points. It couldn't happen again, surely, could it? I think there are reasons for optimism because if you think Adam Armstrong, another new signing who came into the club with a lot of promise, a lot of optimism surrounding that signing. He hasn't really fired yet. He scored a couple of cracking goals, but it's been good in a way that there hasn't been so much pressure heaped on his shoulders. I mentioned his namesake earlier, Stuart Armstrong. Hopefully he can come alive in the second half of the season after struggling with injuries and game time. It's asking an awful lot to carry on and finish with 63 points as they did under Koeman back in 2016. But I think that all the signs are good for a very good second half of the season, having built this platform. So yeah, I'm very happy with what I'm seeing at Southampton in the first half of the season.
Well, Dean, let's get your take on this then. As we've said, 20 games gone, currently sitting 12th in the Premier League. Should the focus be looking ahead to the teams in front of us, who we can catch, or are you still ever so slightly looking over the shoulder and the teams that could catch up with us?
No, definitely looking up, Kenzie, 100%. With the way the team's settled now and performing, I think they're playing very, very well. And if you look at it, I was looking at it earlier, it's 13 points we're clear of Burnley. They have a couple of games in hand, but I think that's a decent cushion. It really is. And if Southampton win today, they're going to the top 10 or go 10th, I think it is. So, which is a fantastic achievement. It really, really is, with a team that's a developing team, that's a young team. I enjoy watching the Southampton team play. They're young, they're enthusiastic, played with that really attacking approach. And if you look at it, I was looking at it earlier, 6 defeats, it's 9 draws and 5 wins. So, the 9 draws, it's the small detail that we spoke about before. I think the draw against Brighton, a last-minute equaliser, that's 2 more points. The draw against Leicester, where we were winning. The draw against Crystal Palace, where we were winning. Look at that, 6 more points, and Southampton, I think, could be in 8th position, and that's fantastic for the club. So I'm really excited with the new ownership as well, with a bit more strength in terms of investment, possibly, whether that's in January or the summer. With the ability to be able to keep this group together would be really, really important. I think there's an excitement around the football club, and they should definitely be looking up. So, yeah, happy days ahead, I think.
Yeah, it has been a great run so far, and particularly impressive at home, with Wolves being the only opponents to win at St Mary's with a 1-0 victory back in September. Paul, what do you remember from that day and how Southampton performed?
It was a funny game. I was there working for the Premier League. It wasn't a classic. It wasn't the most memorable game we've ever seen at St Mary's. There were a few chances, a disallowed goal, as we've seen. The best chances all seemed to be finished with the offside flag going up, really. From a neutral point of view, in my role, I was pleased when Raul Jimenez scored, because it was such a wonderful story. Take all loyalties and supporting out of the equation, to see him back performing well. It was the first time I'd seen him in the flesh since his horrendous accident, and I remember talking to some of the Wolves guys. How has his game changed with that headband on, with what must surely still be on his mind? The way he scored that goal was phenomenal. At the same time, I really wanted Southampton to win that game, because it's easier for me, it's more fun, and I've got a soft spot for Southampton. So whenever there are positive results down there, I'm a happy man. And this was one of those games where it just didn't seem to be clicking quite so much. As I mentioned, it was in that first quarter of the season where things did seem to be a bit of a struggle, but it was also perhaps the start of the Armando Brazier explosion. He had about half an hour in that game, then couldn't play in the next one because of it being against Chelsea, his parent club. And then the goal scoring run began in the next one against Leeds. He'd obviously shown the manager behind the scenes that he'd listened to the advice, that he had knuckled down. And that was one of the changes that saw the season take off, really, and give us this amazing platform that we can see the club building on now. So, yeah, the game itself wasn't great. Wolves had started the season in a difficult fashion, really. They'd lost 3 of their first 4, I think. They were looking to strengthen and solidify things at the back. They kept a clean sheet at St Mary's, and that's been their sort of benchmark from then on. They don't concede many. They don't score many either. They do sort of spoil the game a little bit, if you like. They're trying to keep things very tight. So, yeah, if you hadn't asked me, I wouldn't have remembered it.
Well, they've only conceded 2 in their last 9 matches, Dean. They've obviously had a fantastic run of form of late. It was a tricky start for them at the beginning of the season. What have you made of the way they've turned things around, and just your overall assessment of them so far this season?
Well, like you say, Kenzie, it was a difficult start, but I think that can take time with a new manager. I think the opening day of the season, they played Leicester, and Leicester beat them 1-0, but they actually performed very, very well. And from that moment, or since they've beaten Southampton, like Paul said, it's kind of been the springboard for them. Defensively, very, very strong. They've only conceded 14 goals, I think. Like Paul said, only scored 14 as well. So they're a developing team. But I watched them play against Manchester United, and they were really, really impressive. They've got some excellent players. Jimenez, like we spoke about, is a world-class striker. When he's at his best, there's not many better in the Premier League. The 2 midfield players are very, very good. Connor Cody at the back seems to be back to his best. The goalkeeper, very, very efficient. So I think the manager's done a good job at Wolves, and they sit 8th in the league. So after the start they had with losing 3 out of their first 4, I don't think they would expect to be in this position. So it's going to be a tough fixture today. It really is. Their home record's okay, but they've had some really good results against the bigger teams as well. Drawing 0-0 against Chelsea, like I mentioned, beating Manchester United, and then only losing by the odd goal against, losing 1-0 to Liverpool with a late goal, and then losing 1-0 to Man City. So they're a good team. They are. I think the manager would like them to find ways of creating more chances and being able to score more goals. but they've got a really strong defensive base and a really strong foundation to build upon. So where they are in the league, I think you'd be very, very happy.
Yeah, we saw the Southampton team arriving at Molineux just a few moments ago, and a win for Saints would put them 1 point behind Wolves in the table. Paul, how impressed would you be with that? And I suppose it'd be quite useful ahead of a tricky run of fixtures coming up.
Absolutely. It would be a very impressive achievement because of the record they've shown recently, as Dean was just saying, the way that big clubs have struggled, or bigger clubs, the biggest clubs in the world have struggled against them in recent weeks. But that's not to say that this is, a draw at best going up there, not at all. And the next game's coming up exactly the same. There have been times in the past where you've looked at games against City at home, Spurs, Manchester United, the next three that are coming up in the Premier League, and feared the worst in some ways. Southampton have a history of coming up with tremendous results against big clubs, but they've kind of been occasional. Under Ralph Hasenhüttl, they've been much more consistent, I think, in these sorts of fixtures. 2 of the last 3 against City at St Mary's have been 1-0 wins, or maybe 3 of the last 4, 2 for City, 1 for Saints, of course, that magical goal by Shea Adams. There was a 0-0 at the Etihad in September. They don't go into any of these games with anything to fear. Spurs as well, blimey. I'm a Spurs fan. I know that Southampton are deserving some luck at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They've lost on each visit so far just by the 1 goal, normally because of a Son penalty right at the death. But the number of times that they have dominated for long periods on that pitch and then come home with nothing, they must be scratching their heads wondering how that's the case. And you don't have to think back very far for big wins at Old Trafford as well. We'll gloss over last season's result there, but I think it would be good. Of course, it would be good to beat Wolves today, to keep the momentum going into this run of tricky fixtures. But equally, I can see Saints winning any or all of those 3 fixtures against City, Spurs and United. And goodness, what a second half of the season we could expect then, particularly now that the injuries are clearing up. The COVID cases don't seem to be nearly as frequent as at other clubs. So I think there's reasons to go into each and every one of those games coming up thinking, right, here we go. This is going to be another memorable result.
Well, it's very nearly score prediction time. So whilst we let you have a little think about that, let's take a look at what's being said once again on social media. Peter sent us in this comment. He says, Teller's pace is key. Rickster on YouTube, hello. Let's go Saints, keep climbing up that table. He's also going for a 3-0 win. Rosemary, hello. She says, great team, great bench, a win today. Let's say 2-0 to the Saints. Patrick Moore is also watching along. Hello. He says solid team. He's going for a 3-1 Southampton win. And we've got a comment here from Ashley as well. Thanks for joining us. Good to see an unchanged team. We need to start like we did against Brentford, and we need an early goal. Very strong subs bench as well. So Dean, the fans are feeling confident. Lots of big, impressive score predictions there. But the question is, what are you going to say?
Well, I think it's going to be a tough game today. I really do. Wolves don't score many, but we've spoke about it. They don't concede many. So I think if Southampton can defend really well and get a clean sheet today, and I think the formation gives them a good opportunity to be able to do that and can score the first goal. I think the first goal in this fixture is really, really important. If Southampton can get that, I think they can go on and win the game today. So I'm going to go for a tough, challenging 1-0 win to Southampton.
All right, 1-0 for Dean. Well, Paul, the guess of few goals in the game on Tuesday were a little wide of the mark. Are we expecting it to be a little more accurate for this game?
Well, seeing as Patrick Moore has been in touch with you, Kenzie, let's shoot for the moon. I reckon because Wolves haven't actually seen a goal at home in the Premier League for very nearly 2 months, they did enjoy a 3-0 win, I think it was it against Sheffield United in the FA Cup last week? And I think there might be a bit of edge in the crowd. They might be urging the team a bit more forward. They've had enough of this defensive football, so they're going to try and change their style today. I think it's good that Ruben Neves is missing for them. There's no Adama Traore in the starting lineup for them as well. So I think they're going to try and attack. Southampton are going to catch them out. and there's going to be a 3-0 away win to tear up the form book.
Do you know what?
Wow.
You say it with such confidence. I really believe it's going to happen. I absolutely love it. Well, Dean, Paul, great to have you with us. Thanks ever so much for your insight. As always, we look forward to chatting with you after the game. Don't forget, kickoff is, of course, at 3 o'clock. We are looking forward to that one. Make sure you join us after the match for the final whistle. We'll see you then.